It's a meeting in the ladies' room, hosted by Tammy Lawrence, media mogul with over 15 years in public relations, 7 years in publishing, and her current venture to create one of the first African-American woman-owned streaming TV networks. The app is downloadable on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, and mobile devices. This little lady has earned the right to be called a media mogul, leading the way. The podcast features guests from around the world. Meeting in the Ladies' Room is streaming on the Exposure Podcast community, accessible on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeart, Google Play, and a host of other streaming platforms. Lock in on the hottest podcast now streaming.
Hi, this is Tam, and you are here on Exposure TV, Exposure Magazine. And today, my wonderful and amazing interview with Sharma MacDonald, who is a Canadian actor, filmmaker. And one of the things that stood out to us when we accepted this interview is that she said to us, and it was two occurring events that were happening that were life-changing, which is COVID-19 and racism. I thought that that was so profoundly said because we were facing two pandemics and we still are. Yet, a lot of times it's overlooked and underserved in terms of attention. The other thing you want to just take close attention to is we're going to go right over to Ms. MacDonald for her experience in the industry as an African-American woman. Hey, how are you? And can you share some of that wonderful, amazing advice and your experience as an African-American in the industry?
Hi, thank you again for having me, Ms. Lawrence and Exposure Meg. And like you said, the two pandemics at once, the COVID-19 and racism. And as a Black woman in particular, I felt that it was my duty to be able to tell stories that deal with Black people and that deal with the experiences that we face. I, for one, starting in this industry as an actress, it was very, I learned very quickly that the industry was not built for people who look like me. And I mainly say that because even starting out acting and going to auditions, there were very few roles that were available for people of color, and especially for Black people. And so, for example, there was a commercial that I had gone for, and they ended up requesting a diverse cast, but yet when the commercial came out, there wasn't one visible minority in there. And so that to me was, kind of a slap in the face and made me realize that I need to start creating my own work and I need to start writing my own scripts. And that's when I, started writing particularly short films, and which has brought me to where I am today.
Awesome. The one thing I wanted to congratulate you on is being recognized by the Canadian network as one of the top 150 Canadians. What was that like for you? And congratulations.
Thank you. So yes, that was in its own, it was amazing. It was truly humbling experience. It was unexpected. And, I received an email saying that I was nominated. And, at first I was like, is this even real? Is this spam? Whatever the case is. And so I looked deeper and I was aware of the Black network that was honoring me. And I was like, oh my gosh. To this day, I don't know who nominated me or the several nominations that came, but thank you to whoever that is. But when I accepted and I got awarded as the top 150 Black Canadians, it just showed that what I was doing and how I work so hard in the industry to tell, especially untold stories, and to shed light on certain topics and issues that we face as a Black community. Just knowing that other people are recognizing my work for it was was surreal and such an amazing experience.
One of the other questions that I have for you is right now we're in the process. Today is actually the first day of Be in Color Media Week, which is a Black media celebration. And it really works to try for the advancement of Black media. Tell me, for you as a film producer, what does that mean? What does media truly mean for you? And then if we use this, we have the ability to do what? Change the narrative, the trajectory. Tell me what Black media means for you.
I think that Black media is necessary. I think that um, whether you're a producer, filmmaker, actor, artist, no one is going to know about us as Black people, who we are, or as people of color, without us being able to have that platform and to showcase our work. And so I think that it's so important. I think it's so crucial to have that in order to not only for ourselves, to educate ourselves, but to educate people who aren't like us, to educate people, to educate non-Black people, to educate people of all other races and ethnicities, to showcase who we are, to showcase who Black people are. And I feel that's why it's so important, because unfortunately, there are many aspects of media that portray Black people negatively, and that needs to change. We are great inventors and contributors to society, but you rarely see that. And that's what it's all about. Just like you said, changing the narrative. That is what I would like to do, and that's what I feel like needs to be done. What needs to be done, and that's why Black media is so important, especially today with everything going on.
Mm. One of the things that, and being in Black media, I have found that even after college, after 8 years of wonderful education and information, that words for me had gone, they began to scramble in my head. Like I couldn't really, because we talk about these things a lot. Like Black people, oh, we're talking about the change that we need to see, but yet we see very little movement. And that movement that we need to see, I believe, is the collaboration, the solidarity, the unity. And how important is that for you?
Yeah, very important. I mean, when you talk about unity and solidarity, I truly believe that yes, it needs to be amongst, us as Black people, but allyship definitely needs to play a part in it as well. We need, our, white, Asian, Latino brothers and sisters joining us, right, in this movement, and also not being afraid to, you know, be with us in creating stories and creating and showcasing positive Black people in the community and shedding light as to what's happening. And I believe that there's not enough of that being done. I feel like Black people and Black women as well, we've been so responsible for some of the largest movements in the world. You look at the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Created by females, Black females. And I feel like as Black females, we are underappreciated. And so it's about us unifying, and Black men supporting Black women and, vice versa. But also, I feel like it's going to take everyone, it's going to take a collective effort to move our subject forward. And so that's what I believe with that.
As a thespian, I know when you're creating art, especially when it comes to scripts and things of that nature. It's always in us to go look at, Hansberry Sands and those who came before us, Marcus Garvey, words of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, so that you can kind of gauge the presence of the origin of how we feel into the present, right? So, one of the things that I would continue to keep saying is that I believe that Martin Luther King said in his last speech that he led his people into a burning building. And so, what he meant by that, if you break it down, is that the whole thing with us integrating as a people happened too fast before we could actually figure out we were a disenfranchised people. And before we could actually love on ourselves or come to understand that we're worth it, um, we threw ourselves into a fire too quickly. We didn't understand our heritage. We didn't, create our own Wakanda, our own space. And so when you create films to talk about mental health, there's layers and layers of trauma when you throw people who are into a monarchy, um, and they feel homeless most of their lives for decades. I mean, for years. We are we are in a space that is built on Elizabethan and Roman Catholic beliefs and things of that nature. Has nothing to do with our heritage. And so I'm always curious to understand the mindset of film producers like yourself when we start to talk about the mental health piece, um, and the diaspora and the origination of it. How do you layer that in your movie?
Mhm. Yeah, so and for the short film in particular, I think why it was so meaningful to me was because after what had happened to George Floyd, I know I mentioned before that was the tipping point, which started uh, my this film, 2020, and I began to write everything that I was feeling after that because at that moment I just I felt less than as a person. I felt like I wasn't being seen, and I say that in the film as well. And so I began to write, and there was, a lot of tears and a lot of anger. And I didn't realize that a lot of Black people were feeling the same way at that time until I had a lot of friends that reached out to me. And through that, I I realized that this was a moment. This was a defining moment for a lot of people, and a lot of past thoughts arose into my head. Things that I probably overlooked when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
it came back. And, I started to realize, microaggressions. And I started to realize, everything that I had covered up, especially when I was younger, growing up, that was actually flat out racism or racist. It's like everything was unfolding, everything was just, coming apart in front of my eyes. And the only way that I could express myself was by writing. And I think back to that time, that afternoon. It was really hard for me because there was just a whole bunch of emotions and layers that I was peeling for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I didn't know how other Black people were reacting, but I was just like, wow, it's not that it just hit me that way. It's amazing how it hit a lot of people that way, a lot of Black people that way. And so I'm on this journey now from that, since then, learning and really looking back to everything that has happened in my life, and realizing that it was not okay, and there were things that I accepted, you know just because we think that we need to accept it or it's the norm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm on a I'm on a mental journey with that as well. And you know a lot of people may think that, well, being in Canada, how does it affect us. I've heard that, right? But it does, like racism is here as well. And it may not be so, you know, prevalent as it is in the States, like out there in your face, but we experience it. And sometimes it's hard, especially when it's silent, like when it's silently done.
Mm.
So yeah.
So one of the things that Malcolm X said was that media is the most powerful weapon we will ever have. Um, and I've come to find that my parents were Pan-Africanists, so I grew up in a household where the teachings was every day. And I grew up in the Nation of Islam, so I get it. But what I have to say is that the unfortunate piece here is that we don't look at that content and use it as a blueprint because they're telling us words of wisdom so that we don't have to experience something again in life. So to me, people learn in two ways. You learn from wisdom or experience. Your mother said, "Don't touch the stove," right? You can trust her wisdom and not touch the stove, or you can go touch the stove and get burnt. And now you have the experience, and you'll pass that wisdom on down to your children, right? And so here it is where he says this, and he says that media has the ability to make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. So in a film that you create, or a film that anyone creates for that fact, you have the ability to use that to create and change the trajectory of African American women, African American men, and how we are seen in this world. What I have to understand or want to understand from film directors is in order for us to do that, we have to have a collaborative effort to grow media platforms that are Black media platforms in order to control the narrative, because they can edit whatever you send them at other networks and they can say, "Oh, we don't want this, this won't sell because it's not controversial. It's not Atlanta Housewives. It's not people beating up each other." So a lot of times the positive content that's being put out and being filmed and produced, it goes under the radar. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, I definitely do agree with that. And I feel like probably in, Black media, we have tried a lot to form partnerships with non-Black media, but there's always that, you know, uh, those other types of media wanting to be safe and not wanting to take anything on, Black or too Black in because they're scared of deterring viewers, right? And so, yes, I agree with having our own platform, but I also feel that the conversation should not stop there. I feel that we still need to try and form those partnerships with people who are willing to learn. I don't think that, we can just, dismiss that, okay, this person doesn't want to know, or this person, unfortunately, ignorant is bliss for a lot of people, and they just don't want to deal with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that that shouldn't deter us from trying to connect with someone, and, showing them that it is important for them to understand and see how all parties can benefit from something like this. And I feel that that's the only way that, we're going to really be able to grow collectively. So I guess that would be a perfect world, but I realize we still don't live in a perfect world. Um, so I am all for, especially at this time, having to create our platforms. And how I'm doing my part, I feel, is creating these films, and also having my, non-Black friends view it and get their thoughts on it. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from them, and a lot of them admitted to me that, wow, yes, I've had this idea of Black people growing up, mainly because of how they were taught, what their parents had told them. And, and now they're saying, well, thank you so much for opening up my eyes to certain things. And I feel like that's, that's what I'm trying to do at the same time.
Mm. 2020 is now in film festivals across the country. Tell us, what film festivals are you all in? This is a film about mental health, and I would say the adversities faced through it and the challenges. I'm not going to talk about the end because that would be the resolution, and that's up to you. Tell us, what film festivals are you circulating in right now?
Yeah. So I can tell I just wrapped at the Halifax Black Film Festival and the Toronto Black Film Festival. We also were at the New York City's Kwanzaa Film Festival, and we actually won an award there for cinematography as well. And we were also in a festival in India. And yeah, so right now we're just making our way in the festival circuit. And I know that there are a few upcoming for the Toronto ones, but I also do need to make sure that we have that officially on paper before I disclose that. But yeah, we've been doing our rounds, and it's just been so widely received, and I'm just so happy and elated. And I've had people reach out to me that have said, this film touched them and it really hit home for them, and they didn't know how to express their feelings in 2020. And so the film was kind of a blueprint for them. They were like, wow, okay, I feel satisfied by your film because that is how I was feeling. I just didn't know how to say it. And for me personally, I just don't want anyone to feel, especially Black people going through what we've gone through, just not feeling alone. And so I did this film to really raise awareness, but also to support and uplift one another.
Awesome. I don't know how to change that back. Oh, Jesus. Oh, there we go. There's going to be some edits. There's going to be some edits. Oh, listen, it was fabulous hanging out with you.
Thank
I hope you
you.
come back and join us. Exposure Magazine is now circulating we're now in our 8th year. We just had our birthday on Sunday.
Yes, I saw that. Happy
Oh my
birthday.
God.
That is amazing. Thank you for all that your magazine does, though, in uplifting, promoting all types of artists. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a long journey, 8 years in. And so we are at 87,409 subscribers. And I want to say thank you to each one of you all that are out there, that are reading, that are one of the things that are very important about our audience. And I love to always tell their story because we've been together. Most of them have been around for about 5 years. I think the oldest one I just looked up, and he's been with us since 2014. And he sent me his registration or his subscription and said, congratulations on LinkedIn. And I said, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It just ages you at times. I never imagined, almost looking at 50, that it would still be, still pressing upon living out my dream, and my passion is behind my dream. So I thank God for that. But we are now into television, and so you guys will be able to see this video in this interview on Exposure TV, on Roku, Amazon, and Apple TV as well. You'll also be able to pick up this interview on any of your mobile devices. Did I forget to mention, it wouldn't be me if I didn't add to the media list, would it? So here it is. We are now podcast. The podcast has been circulating for some time. We just haven't mentioned it. The community has gotten so big, and it's so amazing. Thanks, guys, for joining. We got podcasters from all over the country. And the podcast is on Spotify, Pandora, Alexa, iTunes, Google Play, as well as we just got picked up by Amazon Music. I'm like, oh, that's so good.
Amazing.
We should really hang out with Jeff now one of these days. Jeff, these always right. We really do. We need to go talk to Jeff. Like, hey,
yeah, why not? Exactly.
So I'll definitely want to see you come back, Ms. MacDonald. Come back, join us again, hang out, tell us how the film was in the festival, and hopefully we'll get a chance to preview the film over on this side at Exposure TV. So we'll keep talking. Thank you so much, and you guys have a blessed and positive day. New day, new day. Namaste to anyone else that understands or overstands. So.
I love it. Thank you.
It's a meeting in the ladies' room, hosted by Tammy Lawrence, media mogul with over 15 years in public relations, 7 years in publishing, and her current venture to create one of the first African-American woman-owned streaming TV networks. The app is downloadable on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, and mobile devices. This little lady has earned the right to be called a media mogul, leading the way. The podcast features guests from around the world. Meeting in the Ladies' Room is streaming on the Exposure Podcast community, accessible on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeart, Google Play, and a host of other streaming platforms. Lock in on the hottest podcast now streaming.